contract. Because if you're not getting elite quarterback play, you better get good quarterback play on a rookie contract to win a Super Bowl. Those are your two paths to a Super Bowl, and I think right now they're probably taking the rookie contract, who's good but not great, but you're building a great team around him.
Yeah, I can also see Trey Lance working well here, where a quarterback who can run the ball and throw deep. I think that can make a lot of sense. Final thoughts on the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I just think overall they're winners. Like you said, though, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in August. If they can add,
15 minutes, 15 seconds.
Lance, A. Jones, or Fields, that's going to be an interesting team. And how they compete for that quarterback job.
Yeah, 17 seconds, man.
Yeah, I have them as winners as well. Kind of an easy pick there for winners. We'll stay with the division. We're going to go division by division here, so that's how we're going to do this. We'll now move on to Buffalo.
Get in, man. Get in there, baby.
Here, I'll start this off. I feel like Buffalo's one of those teams that didn't make a ton of huge moves. They lost, a couple of players. I think that just with a couple of the signings they have, they lose John Brown, they get Emmanuel Sanders, they get a good backup quarterback in Mitchell Trubisky. I have Buffalo as winners here. They're not big winners, but I think they're winners.
I had them at winners too. Trubisky's an upgrade over Matt Barkley if you need to go to a backup quarterback. The wide receivers, Sanders is a great third option. You think Davis gets better, and this was kind of just about bringing the band back together. Is really what it was. It wasn't really doing anything crazy. It's just said, hey, we have a really good team. Let's not overreact to one bad game against the Chiefs to say that we need to change a lot to this team. Let's not overreact to that. Let's just bring back our guys and make sure we can run it back like that. So I think the Bills are winners in that regard. I think the last thing they need is they really need to address the pass rusher in the draft. If they can knock out that pick, and it's like that's a home run pick, this is a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, again, one of those things a little bit easier said than done, but that would be a key factor. And, also, winner Mitchell Trubisky, people aren't saying now, oh, only the Bears drafted Deshaun Watson, so we've got that going for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be him and Jake Fromm, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, Trubisky, I think he's a top-tier backup. I could see Trubisky being one of those guys that sticks around for a while.
I mean, I could too. And, I think with Allen's skill set, I think he's kind of comparable to that. He can move around a little bit, extend some plays. He obviously doesn't have the pure arm strength and arm talent that Allen has. But maybe going to Brian Daboll, which did a lot for Josh Allen, will do a lot for Trubisky too, and that can kind of fix some things for him. I'm not ruling it out. There's a reason he was picked number 2 overall, whether it was right or wrong. I think that there's a reason he was picked there, and maybe they can figure some things out with him.
Yes, also the great Luke Brown. Mitch has the MVP, which is the most important award you can get, a grade. Let's continue with the division now. We're going to go to the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins here. I have the Miami Dolphins as losers in this one. I don't think that they're necessarily huge losers, but I think they're losers losing Devon Godchaux, who we talked about.
Man, wrong side, man. Pressing the wrong button and everything, man.
Option with the Tua stuff. Illinois. They did get a couple good signings. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, maybe that is their number 2 option, and Will Fuller. So this felt like a tie to me, but I decided to go loss, but just because I wanted to say win or loss, but it's right around there.
Yeah, I kind of had them as slight losers too, because I still think there's going to be a pretty good team. But like you said, they basically replaced Godchaux with Adam Butler, and they replaced Kyle Van Noy with Bernard McKinney. And I feel like those are 2 downgrades to me in that one. Godchaux, as Barry Brennan mentioned, was hurt last year, but I still think he's a pretty good tackle. And I would have tried to bring him back and hope that he gets healthy this season. So I do think that they slightly downgrade, but at the same time, I still think they're going to be fine. And the Will Fuller thing was interesting. I thought that he'd be able to net a little more money on the market. Dolphins take a chance on him, and he could be a huge thing for them because they didn't really have a deep threat last season. Now, is Tua going to be able to make those throws is the big question. But if he's able to with Will Fuller, I think that's going to be an interesting variable to the offense.
Yeah, and it seems like the real way the Dolphins plan to get better this offseason is with all of their draft capital, which makes sense. The Will Fuller one is a total wild card. He could end up getting hurt again. If he stays healthy, though, they got a receiver that's probably like $17 million in value for a lot less because of his injury.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's It's going to be interesting. I don't know. It's hard to judge that. I think the one thing I'm willing to say, though, is I think Isaiah Wilson finally jumped Andrew Thomas is the most disappointing rookie.
Yeah. I mean,
he
crazy.
missed his physical or whatever. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, so I think it was a bunch of kind of like staying afloat moves for them. You know, they got a little less expensive, but they also made some moves that I thought were slight downgrades. And this is another team like the Bills, though. If they're able to knock out the draft and make some good picks there and real impact players, it could be a huge thing for them.
Yeah, I agree. We will now finish out the AFC East. Let's go to the New York Jets. New York Jets, they franchise tag Marcus May. Didn't lose too much. They were able to get guys like Keelan Cole and Corey Davis, who maybe lower numbers than you would have thought. Also, Carl Nelson, try to get that, and Sheldon Rankins. And their defensive line should look really good, considering that they already have a good defensive interior. I have them as winners here.
I do too. I have them as winners. I thought Carl Lawson was a really good move. I thought Gerard Davis was a really nice, potential high upside pick if he bounces back from his bad season last year. Which, I'm willing to buy any stock that's low on the Lions players that are moving away from Detroit. So I think that's a good high upside pick. Bringing May back, I thought, was a really good move. Even with the franchise tag, and then Corey Davis should provide a lot to this team. And whoever is at quarterback, I think he's going to be a decent weapon. They still don't have a number one weapon in my book, but at least having him and Mims, I think, is an interesting combination of wide receivers.
Yeah, they could also, could use some offensive line help. Obviously, that was an issue last year, but they're improving their wide receiving core, which was just as big of an issue last year. So obviously, they had the number 2 overall pick. They're probably going to go quarterback there. So we'll have to see exactly how things work. But this seems like a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the draft is everything for this team, and what they want to do with Darnold and the quarterback situation. I think that's going to really define what this team's going to be for the next couple seasons.
Yeah, agreed. We don't spend too long on them. We'll go over to Baltimore now, changing divisions. The Baltimore Ravens. They lost some people. They lost a couple of edge rushers. Unique Ngakoue, obviously Matt Judon. Also, the Mark Ingram isn't going to hurt them too much. They did get Kevin Zeitler, who I think could help them. As a whole, this does still feel like a loss to me. But, again, Ngakoue wasn't exactly a superstar when he played for Baltimore, and they knew it was a rental when they traded for him. This does feel like a loss to me. They lost a little bit and didn't gain as much back, but it's not a massive loss.
I have him as kind of like a neutral. I didn't love it and I didn't hate it, because I feel like that they were able to kind of weather the storm and bringing back guys like McPhee and Bowser to make sure that they didn't lose too much on that defense. And I really like the Zeitler move. I think that he's going to be really nice on the interior of their offensive line, which I didn't think was really all that great last season. So I feel like doing that and bringing him back, I think, could be a really nice move. I still wish they added a wide receiver, but if they're able to add one in the draft or maybe trade for one too, I still think this can be a really good football team. I thought they made some moves and they were smart with their picks.
Yeah, and the other
money.
Right. The other sort of shoe that we're waiting for to drop, though, is the Orlando Brown Jr. Is he going to get traded?
Yes.
Requested a trade, and that could be another thing that sort of shakes this team.
Yeah, obviously that would hurt their team. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I think it's an interesting dilemma that he basically.
Oh man, damn! Why did you tackle him?
Don't spend too long on them either. We'll go to Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns. Your Cleveland Browns. They go out and they get a couple of good defensive players, which they needed. Obviously, John Johnson, probably the big one. Also added Troy Hill. They are winners for me. They upgraded in severe positions of need. They did lose some players, but no one that's was really a massive loss. This does feel like a winner, a significant winner for me.
Come on, baby.
Yeah, I think this is probably the biggest winner of the offseason for me so
Come
far.
on.
Wow.
So.
I don't understand how Johnson went for $33 million.
I think it's just simply positional. People don't want to pay safety.
Yeah, I mean it probably is, but I think he's a really good player, and I thought they really capitalized on that. I think Troy Hill makes a lot of sense for them too, just makes them a little bit better. Him and Greedy Williams will compete for the number 2 spot. They got a lot of different things they can do there. And I even think Tack is a nice number 2 edge rusher that they can use. So I like every one of their moves. I think their offense was just about what you wanted from them. I don't know if there was anything they really were looking to upgrade. So I think addressing this defense was the number 1 priority. And I think they did everything they needed to. They added a safety, they added another cornerback, and they added an edge rusher that can help. So I thought this was all really good moves.
I totally agree. I think this is again, it was such an issue for them last year. The steps in the right direction for sure. This could end up as sort of a championship type team. Who knows?
Come on, man!
Championship aspirations.
Can't be over controllers.
11-0. Some interesting moves here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lose Bud Dupree. That's the big one. They do re-sign Juju Smith-Schuster, which is probably their biggest thing in their favor. Lost a couple of depth guys, or they gained a couple of depth guys. I do have them as losers, so I think replacing Bud Dupree is going to be tough. And the Steelers, they were 11-0 with Bud Dupree, and I think they were 1-5 without him. Obviously, that's misleading, but it's hard to replace a really good edge rusher.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I have them as kind of a neutral, and maybe, like you, I have them closer to slight loss, but, I think the biggest thing was they didn't overreact to Juju Smith-Schuster. They got him a deal that I thought was pretty good value, and it's a 1-year prove-it deal. And you kind of just see what happens there, because I don't think he's, top wide receiver money. And, the Bud Dupree thing is going to be interesting. I know they were undefeated.
Man, give me a fucking break, nigga.
I don't know if I would have paid Bud Dupree the money that he got when they have guys like TJ Watt, When they have guys like TJ Watt on their team, I'm okay with having, I would probably be okay with letting Dupree walk at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it does feel like, the Alex Highsmith is going to see what they can get out of him as, who's a sort of a mid-round pick last year as a rookie. He might now get the starting role. It makes sense, but it still feels like part of what made that team so good was their pass rush, and they still have a great defensive line.
Let me just win one game!
To that.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably fair. It'll be interesting to see if Highsmith can hit another level to keep this up.
Yeah.
It's bad, man!
Alright, let's finish
off.
What
the fuck is this unacceptable
box? Kind of interesting what they did.
Whatever it is, man, we switch the control. Press box. The game is acting a little bit slow.
They signed Riley Reef. They do improve the offensive line somewhat. I think Bengals fans were hoping for more of an upgrade. To me, this is a loss to me. I think that the Trey Hendrickson just feels like it's going to be one of those moves that we look back on and say, that's a bad contract and he's going to get cut after 2 years or something like that. I think Carl Lawson would have been the better option there. And, some slight upgrades otherwise, but I'm putting this in the loss column.
Yeah, I had it as loss as well because, I thought they could have used more offensive line help and I thought they would go for that more. And then, as you kind of said, doesn't Hendrickson and Hilton just kind of feel like a worse version of Carl Lawson and William Jackson? Like, why don't you just bring back your guys if you're going to sign those two? I mean, I don't know what the market was like or what Lawson was feeling about coming back to Cincinnati, but I just feel like if you're going to pay those two, you might as well just brought back Lawson and William Jackson and run it back with those guys rather than bringing in new faces that I really don't think are as good.
Yeah, Bay Area Baller said Trey Hendrickson just kept making plays last year, and it is true. I'm just a little bit concerned about someone who, had a breakout season in their, contract year, along with playing on that defensive line. He can do well if he's in the right situation. The question, though, is they're paying him to do well in any situation. I'm not quite sure he'll live up to that.
Yeah, he's basically asked to be the guy who's going to provide consistent pass rushing, where he was probably the third guy on the same last year. When you look at everybody on that defensive line, and it'll be interesting. I think it's not. I don't think he's going to put anywhere near the same numbers he did last year. Do you?
I would certainly bet against it. If it's the over/under how many sacks he had last year, I think it's an easy under.
Yeah. So I would have it as a loss right now for the Bengals. I mean, they still have ways to get better, and I think they're gonna, get guys like Penei Sewell in the draft that can help them. But I still wish they addressed, I thought Corey Linsley made a lot of sense for them, and it did. I don't know if they were in on that trying to get him or not, but I thought they really could have addressed a lot of offensive line rather than just Riley Reed.